you can't heal any trauma unless you first really want to do it. So what are your incentives? That's step one. What are your incentives? What is going to hold you accountable when you're having a moment of relapse is the best word to say it. Like, you just can't get your head around the emotional feeling of feeling lack that lives within you. You have to reconnect with your why. Your why has to be super freaking powerful.
Toxic money beliefs running through the whole system. My name is Amity Rose from amityrose.co. I am a women's empowerment coach and certified hypnotherapist. The whole channel is devoted to empowering women to remember their worth, their value, and their power. One thing I thought was really cool that I want to talk about, and I want to see your perspective and kind of what you do, is the ancestral money wounds. I saw that you have the workbook, kind of your story around that and your interpretation, and also the tools that you use to heal that. And then as well as the rewilding. It's a word that I know it's your current project, and it's a word that we're seeing more and more, I think, especially in like the spiritual space. But what that means, what that looks like, kind of what that path of a woman, what does that mean for her? So those are kind of the two things, if you're cool, those are the two like main things I wanted to, because my soul mission is to give women as many tools as possible. Some will land, some won't. But if we can get every woman really to like take full responsibility for her life experience, that's like requirement number one, right? As long as you're blaming, you're powerless, right? So you got to responsibility, right? Own your choices. And then from there, equip her with whatever tools, healing, all that she needs to really come into her full power, because I don't think women even understand a fraction of like the power we possess being in a female body.
Absolutely. And that's part of my mission statement too. So I'm pretty excited to talk about those things.
Okay. I know. I saw your stuff and I'm like, we're going to have the best conversation, because remember I was talking to you on IG and I was like, deep. We're going to go deep. I love deep, not superficial. Let's talk about money wounds, ancestors, healing trauma,
all the things, the things.
You are my people for sure.
Yes, I agree. Okay. I like your stuff too. Just have to
say
that.
Thank you.
I've been craving.
Yeah. We have to support each other, right? You got to be your own friend, and then you got to support other women too on the path, For
sure.
And that's how we all help lift each other. And then we can be like this beacon of light for other women, like coming to the path, right?
Absolutely.
Essentially, it's necessary. So let's officially start.
Got it. Let's go.
You, thank you so much for being here. First, let me say that, Courtney. I want to let you officially introduce yourself and your offerings and what's going on, and then we'll get into our deep, meaningful conversations.
All right. Well, I am Courtney Mae Bowlin. I decided to kind of veer from the art path a little bit and more into the kind of spiritual world that's really starting to gain a foothold, it seems, because it just, putting spiritual messages behind my paintings was great and everything, but I felt like it wasn't enough. Like I felt like there was more that I could say and do that didn't have to do with it. So that's kind of why I decided to open up a separate account. I still do the art, still a huge part of me, but this is really important because I feel like are leveling up as a collective. And there's so much information that needs to be shared with people. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people, friends and family, people that are in my daily world, where I'm just like, you have no idea. You have no idea your own power. You have no idea of what is available to you because you are still living in this, conditioning that you grew up in. So that's what I kind of bring to the table. Just some of my favorite things to talk about are like spirituality for beginners, because it feels like that's what's in my world a lot, people who have never tapped into that. And so for that reason, I created a course called You Are Limitless, and that's basically spirituality first. And my other kind of my passion project is definitely the Rewilding ebook. I am so in love with where that is going. And then I also have, the workbooks that you talked about. I do offer coaching, but I think it has to be for the right people, the special people who really want to dig deep. So, but yeah, my passion project is definitely the Rewilding ebook. That's my jam right there.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about I love to talk about money because
Yes.
that's been something that I had a huge wounding around. And a couple years ago, I decided I was like, no more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to heal this. And
Yep.
what came up, and you have a workbook on this that I will link. But let's talk about the ancestral
Yeah.
money wounds. How did that even come into your awareness that was something that you had going on, and then also how did you heal that?
Oh gosh. I think that I really started to become aware of my wounds, truly aware of them, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But to actually start healing them only happened about, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago. I was aware of it, but I didn't know how to fix it. So I had a shopping addiction. Yay. um, every time that was my emotional addiction. Every time something went wrong in my life, every time I just felt overwhelmed, whatever it was, I just would go out and go shopping. That was my high. That was what made me feel happy for like a hot minute. And then of course you get all your purchases home and it's like this huge letdown. And, even like remorse and guilt for the amount of money that you've spent. I know I'm not alone here. And I've always been one for the self-healing. Like I love to do it myself. I don't necessarily want to go seek help, which is kind of my downfall sometimes. But
Yeah, I hear you.
which is why it took me 5 years to actually start addressing it. So what I really wanted to do was create tools for women who weren't as stubborn as I am and wanted to like figure out how to get around this. It's not okay to spend most of your paycheck on things to make yourself feel better. It's not okay, but that's not the only ancestral money wound. That's not the only way it can manifest. There are so many ways. It's denying yourself of things that you truly want because you don't feel that you can afford them, or not believing in yourself, not believing that you can create the income to have these things that you want. It's so many things. It's all the things with money that you could possibly be wounded by. My personal one was shopping. So, yeah, but it was also a lack of believing in myself and believing that I could create a healthy way to get things that I want. So this workbook is like, it's the beginning. It's tapping into why you're doing these things. It's tapping into where this has come from, because ancestral money wounds does not necessarily all come from you. The ancestral kind of implies that it is also, given to you, yay, by our parents and our grandparents and our aunts and our uncles, or, from whatever it is that they have gone through in their lives to create this wound in the first place.
Yeah, it's
So
cellular memory. Like it's in the DNA.
Yeah,
Especially depending on the lineage. I know my lineage is mostly Irish, and you kind of have the same coloring, so I'm sure you're European.
I have Irish in there. Yes.
Yeah. So I was talking to even my grandma, and she knew like the potato famine and starvation, and like that is real. And we just read about it in books, and there's like a space between, well, who I am now and, what happened to them. And I would like to be part of conversations that like bridges that gap to where like there isn't space. They are you. You're like the modern day version of them. They're biologically within the cellular structure of your being, and it's real. And we don't, if you're missing that piece, you can feel like you're all alone, like you're just out here struggling. Absolutely. But when you bring in the ancestor part, I think not only do you get to acknowledge these woundings, but you also get their help and their support and their love and their wisdom and their guidance. Like Absolutely. You get the full package of it versus just the wounding, because there's wisdom there. They learned things. you get all of it. And so I just think the acknowledgement of their presence, like within us, can add to the healing tremendously.
For sure. And, our ancestors that have passed, they're like cheering you on. They're absolutely wanting you to do this work because, because you clear the way for your, offspring. Actually, and it's funny that I just said that, because the reason I decided to start working on myself and these money wounds is because I have a 3-year-old. So, ever since she was born, I have been doing nothing but trying to heal as many parts of myself as possible so I can parent her correctly, or as correctly as possible. So
I have 3 children, 2 daughters, and that was one of my primary reasons. I love this work regardless, but I did not want to pass down any of the bullshit that I had. I realize it's just a byproduct, right? I will, but if I can clean up my side of the street as much as possible and be as awake and conscious as a parent that I can be, then I have done myself and them a service.
Absolutely.
Instead of just blindly passing down our wounding.
Yep.
So kids can be such a great blessing in that way, a catalyst to our own awakening.
Absolutely. It's the best catalyst in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because they will shine a light on all of your wounds. Yes. Like if you have trauma that you didn't realize, they'll stick their little fingers in there and they'll remind you of all your unhealed places.
Oh yeah, for sure. Marriage too, but kids, it seems like it's a bigger light. It seems. So basically anything that your ancestors have gone through can create a wound. You can create your own wounds too. But if you, for instance, my grandparents went through wars, the couple of them, and there was a resource shortage. So my grandma, up until the day she died, you walk around her house and she would have the most random stuff packed into little places in her house. There was almost a tiny bit of hoarding going on there because, she lived through a time where there wasn't enough. So that definitely creates a deep wound. And then she had 8 children. So in all of her children, she had created a fear of lack because there were 8 of them and there was not a lot of resources. So it keeps compiling on itself. So this work is never going to get done unless you do it. And
let me ask you something. So as far as like, if you get your mindset right around money wounds and ancestral trauma, how do you reconcile the body part, the biology, right? Because it lives within us. So how do you heal both, right? You can get an idea of what we're talking about, but if it lives within you, so tell me your way of integrating that.
There is absolutely a disconnect between the head and the heart a lot of times in that respect. And it is absolutely a power of the head to be able to get your heart right. You can read all of the information you want to, but you're never going to fully integrate it into your being if you don't get freaking stubborn as hell about it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's being stubborn. It's really wanting to do it. You can't heal any trauma unless you first really want to do it. So what are your incentives? That's step 1. What are your incentives? What is going to hold you accountable when you're having a moment of relapse is the best word to say it. Like you just can't get your head around the emotional feeling of feeling lack that lives within you. You have to reconnect with your why. Your why has to be super freaking powerful.
And what do you do to move it like up and out of the body? Like, do you have any movement practices?
For me, journaling is my go-to for absolutely everything.
Okay.
It is what, yes, you can move your body. Walking is absolutely an amazing thing to do because you are getting out of your stagnant energy. Just going for a simple walk will help clear out the crap. But also for me, it's all about writing. Now, I am sort of a writer, so that's what helps for me. So if you are somebody that is a speaker, like you like to do your podcast, what's going to resonate for you is probably going to be talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So it's going to be different for every individual, what works for you specifically. So that being said, go to your favorite tool. For me, when I am feeling really frustrated, I can read a book on this topic, and I have some great ones that I absolutely love. I can write down how I'm feeling, and a lot of times when I write down how I'm feeling, the emotion gets released. So
you have books specifically on healing ancestral money wounds?
Absolutely.
Will you share?
I will. So Jen, Sincero.
Yes,
you
I
are
know
a
who she
badass
is.
at making money. I'm not sure how you say your last name. You are a badass at making money. Absolutely changed my world. Amanda Francis, rich as fuck. That's also a badass one. Let's see, Big Magic. I know we talked about that. It's not necessarily about money.
That's my favorite book in the whole world.
Yes. It was my gateway book. It was the first book I ever read to start really like focusing on healing some serious crap within me that was starting to come up. It's all about, getting past the limiting beliefs, and it's not necessarily about money, but it can be applied to money for sure.
Yeah. No, that's my favorite book. I think she just covers the dance of being human so beautifully.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I read it every year.
With her, wit and charm and humor.
She's lovely. She's absolutely lovely. And I've read the other two books that you've talked about, and they're all, what's funny is like, they're very similar. Like the ladies just use different words, because it's through their own vessel, their interpretation, but it's all the same stuff. It
is
that, a lot of movement, like I was doing a lot of work in my head. I can be very analytical and mindy, and not too much in my body. So for me, it's very important to move, like physically move in ways. It's more like just allowing myself to move. So I'll put on some music, and I guess it would look like interpretive dance, but it's just like, it's literally moving the energy through, as I move. And then I also get a lot of body work. So I have found that to be really healing. So I get like chiropractic, and I get acupuncture, I get massage, I get like osteopath, like he'll adjust me in all these different ways. And I found that, coupled with all of the like mindset work that I do, really was like the beautiful partnership that I needed, because for a while I was just doing mindset, and I didn't have the body piece, and that was really lacking, because I'm very kinesthetic. I need to experience, and I need to move it through. So just on a personal level, I had to partner both. And I recommend that to all my clients. They have to have some kind of physical practice.
You're absolutely right. And fun facts, those 8 siblings that my dad has, 5 of them are chiropractors, and their father was a chiropractor. So
how funny.
So I often forget about that in particular as a means of therapy, because it's so normal for me. It's so like my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So I forget about recommending that to people. But yes, you're absolutely right. Chiropractic is amazing to help you realign your body and energy. So,
and if you partner with that inner work that you're doing, like that's what I found to be the magic key, because I was doing the inner work, and I wasn't getting as far as I felt I should. And I realized like I was completely ignoring the somatic part, the body part. I was doing all the work here and the heart, but I wasn't incorporating my body in my healing. And once I did, it was like off to the races.
You know what? You totally just reminded me of that. Like I just forgot about that part. So I'm going to be doing some body work here.
Oh, good. Good.
You've re-inspired me about that.
That's awesome. You mentioned rewilding, which is a topic I'm really interested in. I've heard it a few times, and I think it's kind of making like this comeback. It's not anything new, because everything we're into, none of it is new. These are ancient practices that we're only like bringing up, but all of it is old timeless material. So tell me about rewilding.
Yeah, especially in the rewild lane, it was probably done by our ancestors, and it is now. As we're becoming more of a sedentary kind of culture, we've lost touch. I mean, our ancestors, they were outside doing everything. They didn't spend that time inside because it wasn't part of their livelihood.
Do you have like a
Farming was a big
definition
thing, and
of what rewilding is or means?
It's anything you can do to put yourself back into, and so doing basically to yourself. So that's not really great catchy couple of sentences, but that's what it is. It's basically coming. That being said, I give tons of tips and tools and maybe things that you might not think of help you rewild yourself. There's tons of stuff in there that you don't really need to have a piece of nature to do. I think is really handy apartment dwellers and dwellers. But if you do have access to a piece of, you can go to regular, that is absolutely it's the idea for this kind of struck me very raw personal moment. I was having a really hard time connecting with myself, and this was really not that long ago. Even you are kind of trying to step out as a thought leader, you still have moments, you still have human experiences and emotions, So I was having a hard time connecting with myself, and just like had this strongest calling to go back to this piece of land that I actually used to live on. And I was remembering everything that I used to do when I lived there, farming and canning, and I would go outside if I needed an ingredient, all of my art projects, things that I found outside. And I just lost it. I started bawling because for the last, years of my life, I've completely, since I left that piece, and have gotten really bogged down by just regular day life. And that reaction made me realize that nature is something really cut off from a lot of people. It's not necessarily natural for us to be cut off from nature. Thing that's missing from a lot of people. And I want to bring that back in a really approachable way, not just people who have, like I said, people who also have apartments. So, and of course, because I'm an artist, there's artistic elements to it, and it's fun to look at. So
that's such a beautiful, I could see how that can be like the best medicine for people, because we are seriously disconnected. Do you live on a farm right now, right?
I live on 5 acres, and I actually on a corner lot, so there's a lot of traffic going two ways. I absolutely hate it. Like I write in my book how much I hate where I live right now.
Oh no.
For me personally, I need 40 acres and not to see a soul a lot. Who I am, a little bit of an introvert of people, but
I daydream about that. I live in a city, and I daydream about like what I would want that to be like. I don't think I want to be quite that isolated, but definitely like a few acres. And I don't want to be able to see my neighbor's house.
Yes.
Like I want to have, and I want to be semi self-sustaining with like a beautiful garden and fruit trees and chickens and, the different, like to really, I still want to be in a city-like environment, but still have my piece of land that in a way connects me back to nature. And I love, you connect back to nature in order to connect back to yourself.
Yes.
Oh, we have
Absolutely.
a guest.
Yeah, she's gonna have me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But yes, that is so important. It's like the drive to garden or farm is so innate in so many of us, and people even realize it because their day-to-day life is just so far removed from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely lots of ways that you can do that in a city dwelling for sure. I mean, if you have any sort of land whatsoever, planting flowers or just a tiny garden. If not, if all you have is like an apartment balcony or whatever. I've definitely lived that life. I get it. Having some pots with a bunch of plants and flowers out there, or, indoor plants. I'm so into indoor plants. You should see my house.
Yeah, I would love to. I love plants.
Yes. So even if you do not have a green thumb, I didn't originally, even though I'm an earth sign and I technically should have a green thumb.
Yeah.
I really did a lot of research to help myself figure out how to plant, because it was calling to me. So you don't have to have it, and you can absolutely figure out how to do it yourself.
Are you including a part in the book specifically for people that don't have access to like their own land, like people in apartments or condos? I think that's super important, because they're going to be like, well, I don't know how, I don't have the space. So giving them options and ideas. And I also,
definitely I didn't mean to talk over you. With the indoor planting, that's definitely going to be a big thing for apartment dwellers, having the indoor plants, because I have noticed, even though I do have 5 acres, what brings me insane amounts of joy is just walking around and seeing my indoor plants thriving. So that's a very simple, very accessible way for absolutely everybody to kind of get back in touch with nature a little bit.
We also, we have a little bit of space, but we did, what are they called? Like the wood raised beds garden, and it wasn't, maybe 4 feet by 2 feet. Like it wasn't a huge amount, and just put some soil in there. And we have strawberries and peppers and different herbs and stuff. And that's super easy. And then a couple years ago, which is my favorite, we became beekeepers. I don't know if you have that on your farm.
My husband was the beekeeper for quite a while, and then he realized recently that he's actually allergic to the bee pollen.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he did end up getting rid of it. He did it for quite a few years, and let me tell you what, having that fresh honey, oh my gosh, it's so amazing.
And there's something about, I think even the beekeeping is can be considered the rewilding, because
for sure, it's not just
my whole family got involved, like my little son and my daughter. Like we all went out there and we would check each week and do the thing, and it was something we did together as a family. And then I think something happens magically when you observe nature. I think that's part of the power, and so like observing these bees in their hive and checking on the queen, and then watching them build out their hive and the honey. And it was something magical happened to our family in that interaction that I don't quite have words for.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's not just plants. It's also, and there's a page that I've already written about observing animals, and kind of really observing what messages they bring to you, because just the animals themselves. So you sitting there and doing the beekeeping and observing the bees, what did that teach you? Every single animal has their own specific lesson to teach you. So
are you speaking of like domesticated animals or like wild animals?
Or all of them.
Okay.
All of them. Yeah. For instance, I was laying here in my bed with the baby not too long ago, and I was looking out the window, and there was a little, we live in the South, so there was a little lizard that crawled across the window. And there is something super magical about any sort of animal, any sort of bug, because they have the power to make you stop and pay attention. And you may not actually be realizing that you're doing it. You may not be realizing that, that particular animal is causing you to stop and slow down and be out of your thoughts and be out of, whatever crazy moment that you're in. But yeah, every single animal, bug, every living thing has the power to make you stop and pay attention. And if you take it a step further, they all have their own specific little messages too.
I'm so happy you're leading this movement, because I think people need this and want this, and they don't even know it. Like they don't even know that that's the answer to their depression and their anxiety and their misery. They don't even know what they're looking for. And so here you come along with like a simple way of like, let's just get back in touch with nature, and that will change somebody's life. Just indoor plants.
Yeah.
Not only for like health reasons, right? They clean the air and like there's a bunch of other reasons, but as far as like when you bring in life into a room, because they are living beings and they respond to your thoughts, your words, your energy, but it will change. And especially if you put them all around you like they have, they can affect your whole outlook on life, you know, and you just notice that like you're genuinely more happy, or that you are less stressed, or that you take life with more like ease and grace.
Yes.
And I couldn't be more excited for you to be leading this movement, because people don't even know that this is what they need. Or what they want.
It was, yes. And even myself, you know, even before I had that moment on that piece of land, I was like, what is missing? You know? So yeah, I didn't even realize it either. So yeah, that's, it's a big thing. It's a huge thing that we're all missing. So I'm hoping it's so funny the way that this book is being written. It's just like falling out of me a page at a time. And it's, you know, I wonder about that. Like, I don't even think it's me that's writing it. I think it's just coming through me.
Any great piece, people will say that. Any songwriter, they're like, I was just the vessel in which it flowed through. It wasn't really me.
Right. Yeah.
That's when you know you're just tuned in, right? So the wisdom can pour through you, and you're meant to be the vessel to share this message.
And this is not, like you said, it's not a new message. The indoor plant movement has become more and more popular over the last few years, specifically, which is amazing. I love that. But yeah, plants are definitely tied. Plants and animals are tied to your happiness, whether you realize it or not. You can sit there and say, and this actually shows you where somebody is in their life emotionally and mentally based on what they say about plants and animals. You know, they will. I've known a few people, actually a couple people in my family, that will say, well, I'm not an animal person, or I have a black thumb, I kill things, or, you know, stuff like that. I kill plants all the time, you know, just whatever. I've heard so many people say that. And the message that I want people to know is that each and every one of us inherently, because of where we are on this planet, we are able to cultivate plants. Everybody has that ability. Everybody has the ability to care for animals and care about animals. What removes us from that is our traumas.
Do you cover healing trauma in the Rewilding book, or is that out of the scope of that?
You know what? I was not thinking about that initially, but I think I might add it now.
What would you say if I asked you, like, why would I want to do this? Like, why would I want to learn about rewilding? Like, what is it going to do for me?
What's it going to do for you is you will become far more in tune with yourself. You will release quite a bit of depression and anxiety, because when you are thinking about how to give the proper sunlight to a specific plant that you absolutely love, you are not thinking about your depression or anxiety. Yeah, it's healing. It's healing. So that's the huge drive. You're going to start healing yourself. The escape from kind of the day-to-day rat race that we do, the more that we're constantly trying to get, the escape is enjoying the moments, the little moments. So that's what rewilding is all about, is the little moments.
Let me add benefits that I have. First off, I just need to pause, and I need to say that it is so cool that you're nursing your baby while we're having this conversation.
You caught that, did you?
Totally. It's authentic. It's real. You're a mom. We're two women having a conversation. Like, I absolutely will not edit any of this, right? It's just part of my like highest value is not only integrity, but authenticity. Like 100% of the time I can be counted on to be real.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. That is a real moment. You're a new mom.
Yep.
And you're nursing her. And so I'm so happy that the timing aligned so that could be a part of it, because I think people miss that. Everything is so faked out or photoshopped or edited, or right. So you just see like this glamour, and it's unreal. It's not real life. And so I'm so glad to put my content out there that this is real life. She has a baby who's hungry, and she nursed her while we had an awesome conversation. That's real, you know.
And that's that's what makes us so badass. We can do those things.
Thank you. And then other women can see that, like, here's two normal women just being, you know, who they are. Like, that's, thank you. But I wanted to add with the rewilding, with, you know, the beekeeping that we added in our garden and things. One thing that it helped me, absolutely, I agree about the healing. What it did was connect me to the cycles.
Yes.
So you have morning, you have afternoon, you have evening, and then the cycles of the year, right? What plants, certain, like we just finished watermelon season. Like, I know watermelon doesn't grow in the winter. Like, you know, like, so it helped align me also to like, the moon. I see that you have a beautiful, cycles of the moon on your wall. I know, I saw that. So you have to think about those things, right? Our plants, our garden, our thing is always responding to moonlight, the same that our bodies are, right? Our moon cycles each month. So rewilding helped me connect back to the natural cycles.
Absolutely. It's literally everything. It's how we should be living our lives day to day. You know, can we lobby for a lunar calendar year instead of what we have? Because that's how we're actually living. And, or that's how we should actually be living. And, you know, can we only eat fruits and vegetables that are in season instead of this weird crap that's in the store, you know, that doesn't actually taste good when it's out of season? It's everything.
Yeah, that's incredible. We shop at the farmer's market, and that also helped us to learn the seasons. Like, they're like, okay, last batch, you know, the season's over. And I was like, oh, but when you shop at a grocery store,
it's always available.
Necessarily learn, right? And it's from Colombia or Guatemala or, you know, some far away country, and you don't even realize there's a huge disconnect. And I hope you have a part in the book about this, a disconnect between people and their food. So even if you choose not to garden or not to farm, there are ways for people to, I think that's a huge part of the problem for a lot of people, because that's your nourishment. It's literally what you become, what you put in your body. So if there's a disconnect there, there's a really big problem in your biological system.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I didn't start out this way. I grew up eating horribly. And eating, you know, whatever fruit whenever I wanted. And when I met my husband, who is like a huge nature buff, he's knows so much more than I do. He was like, no, we don't eat that. It's not in season. And that was just like what? Like, that was a huge awakening. And so many people are like what I was like, you know, it's so many, like most people.
I taught myself all of this about a decade ago. I started on this path because I knew something was very, very wrong about the way I was living and the way most of us are living. You intuitively know that something is off. You know, people might not know what it is, but you know, like something's not right here. And then, you know, I slowly had I taught myself. I was raised on the standard American crappy diet.
Yeah.
I taught myself how to cook. I taught myself everything. And my kids get the benefit of that, like the work that I did. And they'll actually, because we shop at farmers markets, if they get fruit or somewhere else at like a friend's house, they will tell me, they're like, it's gross, Mom. Yeah. It's gross. Because if it sat on some grocery shelf for weeks before they ate it, we get it. Our farmers pick it the day before we eat it. Like, we get the freshest, best stuff locally too, right? But it didn't happen by accident. I worked at this. I read books. I watched videos. Like, I learned about it. But it was the best gift I have ever given myself and my family. 100% hands down.
For sure. Absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah. So your kids will definitely reap the benefit of the choices that you and your husband make, and just even the teachings that you're going to pass down to them. What do you have going on the farm?
Right now it's a bunch of animals, but my husband is always gardening too. We have a tiny little, where I live, the plot is wooded and treed. So we have a tiny little strip of sunlight, And on that sits our garden. But he does, because we're in the South, we can garden pretty much year round, which is not available to everybody, unless you have a greenhouse. But yes, we always do tomatoes. That's a big deal. But right now it's greens because it's the winter. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we do greens, and we've tried spinach, but keeping our chickens out of it's impossible.
Do you share, like when you have an abundance of something, like more than you're gonna?
Yeah. So we have tons of chickens, so tons of eggs. So we'll give those to our neighbors, or like my mom lives close to us. We'll give her some. Can't eat them fast enough, even with.
I love that. Like if we can create community, like where, oh, I have more eggs, you know, and then these people have, you know, lemons and limes and apples. And it's like, there's like this trade, or this taking the community that takes care of each other in that way. I would love to see more of that. And I live in LA, so it's very, very different than where you live.
Yes. We are pretty, I would say where we are, it's remote, a lot of places around here. So it's community is there, but sometimes it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
My dream is to have like a little stand out on my property somewhere, and just, my dad did this for years. He would just put like a bucket out there that says, take some veggies, leave whatever you want, type of deal, you know? I love that. So
that's beautiful. And then it works on the honor system, right? And calls and integrity. And then you're also getting nourished by local food.
Yeah. So I would love to get back to that. So probably one of my next projects.
Yeah. We have a few more minutes. Is there anything else that you're working on, or that you're passionate about talking about?
So much. I mean, I'm not working on anything towards it, but kind of one of the huge things that's been showing up for me lately is kind of reparenting yourself while you're parenting.
Yes.
Which we touched on a little bit.
Yes.
But my husband and I just had a conversation about this last night and this morning. It's like a rollover conversation, just about, if I could say anything that would be the most poignant thing to say about this subject, it would be, I feel like intuitively our earth is leveling up consciously, and we are moving from generations that lived more in their bottom chakras, and we are starting to kind of move up and live in higher chakras now. And our parenting, in my opinion, needs to match that, so that our kids can be successful in the way that earth is going to be changing. We are starting to become less in our body, and more spiritual, or less in our minds and more spiritual. I mean, kind of connecting with ourselves. And I think parenting needs to reflect that, which means paying more attention to our kids' emotions and our emotions, so that we're, you know, not just reacting to them negatively when they become overwhelming, but, you know, trying to give them a safe space for their emotions so that they can thrive and figure out how to regulate them, and figure out how to kind of, you know, live out in society successfully, instead of walking around like these trauma centers that, you know, I grew up being.
100%. Everything that you just said. Absolutely. My big thing as a mom is what I taught them how to cook.
Yes.
So they know how to read recipes, they know how to shop, and they know how to cook, because that was really important. Like, so many adults don't know how to nourish themselves. They're stuck with fast food or like to-go food. And it was like, no. Being able to feed yourself real food, for me as a mom, was like my top priority. If you don't get anything else from me, you're going to know how to feed yourself. And then the next thing that I teach is radical responsibility and self-awareness, because there's no, you know, don't go around blaming people. Right? You take responsibility, and then also the practice of self-awareness. What's going on within you, and then work from that space. And that's kind of been like my trifecta of parenting. But in order to teach my kids that and give my kids that, I need to embody that.
Do the hard work first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was definitely, where my husband and I grew up, it was definitely more of a parenting from a control standpoint, you know, the quick parenting, quick fix solution. Just listen to me because I say so type of deal, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the easier way, but it's not the best way, in my opinion.
No. And that's, you're just feeding the trauma wound.
Yes, reparenting while parenting. That's a big concept that keeps showing up for us.
That's awesome. And then you have a supportive partner, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. He's absolutely amazing. I was told I have to give him a shout out.
Yes, go ahead.
But yes, John Samuel, my husband, he is an amazing partner. We have over the last 7 years that we've been together, like insanely reparented each other and helped get through everything together. And, marriage isn't easy, but it's worth it if you've got somebody that is willing to work on it with you. So definitely hold on to it if you've got a person like that.
100%. Absolutely. My husband and I are 18 years together.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. Wasn't easy.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
You mentioned before we started marriage and parenting. If you want to skyrocket your spiritual development, do one or both of those two things. And that will wake you up quicker than anything else. And I think some people avoid it because they like intuitively know that, right?
Yeah.
For people with commitment issues and I'm not going to have kids or get married ever. Like, I think there's this, like, they know what it would do, what it would open inside them.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not willing to go there yet.
Oh, absolutely. I resisted children for sure, because I think somewhere deep down inside me, I knew how radically it was going to change.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Things will happen. I had a couple years ago, something was going on with my daughter, and it wasn't even going on with her, but the situation triggered like me being left out in like elementary school. Like I was around the same age as my daughter. She wasn't being left out, but I was interpreting what was happening as like a reject. She was fine. It was all my own wounding that came up. Like I was not fine. Yeah. And I was able to see, because thank God I have the self-awareness that I talk about, to see like what was happening. Like, oh my God, this situation triggered a 20-year-old wound of like when I felt left out when I was like 10 years old in this group of girls, right? I wasn't invited to the birthday party or whatever. Like it was wild. And that will continue to happen. And if you've got the awareness and the tools, right, then you can work through it in a healthy, productive way. So it doesn't have to continue to be an issue.
Yep. And then there's nothing that will trigger you like kids. For me, it was dropping her off at daycare for the first time. Because I went through a situation where both of my parents left me for a time in early development, important years. So now I have a trigger about being left. And so when I left her at daycare for the first day, I lost it. And she cried. And that was like, same deal. So,
but you had the tools, to process. Yep. So there wasn't that like projection onto her, right? You didn't like double wound her. Cause I think a lot of our parents bless them, they did their best, but not having the awareness of the tools, they just passed on their wounding to the next generation. Yeah. And I feel like there's something collectively, or at least the women I choose to hang out with, we've come and we're like, it stops here. We're not doing it, And so it's a big task that we signed up for, and it's hard work.
It's hard as fuck.
Yes.
It's like, and it's not just ancestral money wounds, it's ancestral everything wounds that we're trying to heal. And it's not easy. It is not easy work. And a lot of times you feel like you're in the trenches, and a lot of times you're kind of relapsing or you're triggered a little bit. And it's like, it's insane. It's insane work, but it's important work that we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think I know your older is a daughter. Is this also the little baby? Is she a girl too?
Yeah, 2 girls.
Okay. So, and I have 2 girls, and there's something very important about feminine empowerment. So if you have the calling to like transmute and transform like generational trauma, then like, I feel like there's something really special about my girls, because if I chose the work to like have it stop here, then they actually get to be like a new generation of empowered women. And I'm so proud to be like the birth mother of that.
The next generation.
And you as well. Yeah.
I feel like there is something special about each one of my girls too. In that I feel like they're going to kind of carry on more of this work in their own ways. my 3-year-old is an absolute ray of sunshine, and everybody that comes into contact with her falls in love with her. That's a superpower. So
yes. But I also, and maybe we can talk about it next time, I believe that we choose our parents on a soul level, right, for our divine purpose. So the essence of your girls, the soul essence, knowing what your earth mission was, they're very much a part of your earth mission, and wanting, and the reason that they are your children is so that they can, you know, continue the mission and to support you. Like my girls support me all the time. Like we're in this together. I do a lot of the work because I'm an adult, you know, and they're still children, but they signed up to be an empowered woman. Like I know it, and they know it, you know, and as your girls get older, you can already see it in your oldest, but as they get older, you've got a little like army of empowered women that you're growing, you know, and then they go out into the world, and like, that's essentially how we change it.
That's a super cool way to look at it too.
Yeah.
I love that. I hadn't really thought too much about that, honestly, but that's a really cool thing to think about.
Oh, yes.
Love it.
Thank you so much for our conversation and reaching out.
That was so much fun. I enjoyed it.
I do. I want to have you back on when you finish the book, because I intuitively think this book is going to change you in a way.
Well, and even talking to you today and kind of hearing some of like your thoughts and ideas has kind of given me a little like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to write a page on this, and I'm going to, you know, definitely. So thank you.
I would invite, oh, of course, absolutely. Also, not just for the apartments, but like people like me that live in LA. Like I have a house, but I don't have much land, and land here in the city is kind of scarce, you know?
Yeah.
So ideas for people that like have a house, but they're like, oh, I don't have enough land for a garden, or, you know, like options for those people. Cause some people don't think outside the box. So you have to like, expand the box for them, you know?
For them. Yes.
Yeah. And even pictures, because I'm a visual gal too. So I don't know if you had planned on pictures, but that would land for me if I was reading the book and I saw an apartment balcony that was like outfitted how you said, that would really land for me, like rooted in like, okay, that's what it could look like for me. Or even like a small patio. Maybe someone has a house, but a small patio or a small backyard. So really bringing the ideas to life, like in visual format.
Okay. Yeah, I'm visual. I get that.
You're an artist.
Yes.
You could paint it, you know?
Everything is visual for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could even, you know, draw, or however you get it in there. You can include your own, you know, artwork in there. I just know I would be much more receptive if I read the words and then I saw how it could look.
It's so funny. It's really synchronistic that you just said that, because I'm sitting here with a bunch of drawing elements, getting ready to like draw our future house, our future like forever.
Yeah.
So I can definitely do that.
That's incredible. So I want to have you back on when the book's all finished, and I'd really love to hear about how you transformed in the process, because it's not just you writing the book. The book is a vehicle of transformation for you.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to, well, and I think that's why I decided to write it, because I knew it was going to transform. So they say that you're supposed to create the things that you needed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Courtney, I'm a huge fan, and I love your reels.
Big fan of you too. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. You're so authentically yourself.
Thank you.
I love leading this moment, or this movement of women coming back to nature and coming back to themselves. I think is so necessary and so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously.
Yeah, right? Okay, let me know when the book is done, and then I'll be cheering you along the way.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Have a great day, babe.
You too. Bye.
Bye.